this video, we will be discussing about maximum score after splitting a string. Given a string of zeros and ones, return the maximum score after splitting the string into two non-empty substrings, that is left substring and right substring. The score after splitting a string is the number of zeros in the left substring plus the number of ones in the right substring. So what they are saying is that in the input, we are given a string S which consists of only zeros and ones. Now we need to split this string into two non-empty substrings, right? So when we will split, there will be one left substring and one right substring. These left and right substrings have to be non-empty, right? Now, what is the score? The score is the number of zeros in the left substring, right? And number of ones in the right substring, right? Whatever is their sum, that is the score. Now, we need to split the string such that we maximize this score. And this maximum score we need to return as our answer, right? So, let me put the score as 0 initially. So, if I split at this particular point, then in the left substring, the number of zeros are 1, right? And in the right substring, the number of ones are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, it will be 1 plus 4, that is 5, right? So, my score will become 5. If I split at this particular point, then here the number of zeros are 1 and here the number of ones are 3. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So score is already greater than 4. So it won't be updated. Then if I split at this particular point, then on the left there is only 1 0. On the right only 2 ones. So 1 plus 2, 3, which is smaller than the score. If I split at this point, here the number of zeros is 1 and here the number of ones is also 1. So it will be 2. Score is already 5. Then if we split at this particular point, here the number of zeros are 2 and here the number of ones are 1. So it will be 3. Score is already great. And that's the last split that we can have. We cannot split at this point or at this point. Why? Because if we will split at this particular point, then our right substring will be empty. But both left and right substrings have to be non-empty, right? So this is the maximum score that we have got. So in this particular case, our answer is going to be 5, right? So we will try to apply brute force over here because as per the constraints, the length of this string maximum can be 500, right? So for the brute force, what we can simply do is that we can try all possible splits, and in all possible splits we will try to find what is the score, and then at each split we can take the maximum of the score, right? So basically we can keep a pointer I starting from 0, right? So when I will be here, it will denote that we are splitting here, right? So when we are splitting here, so you know that your left substring will be from 0 till I and the right substring will be from I plus 1 till the end, right? So if I run one loop from 0 to I and count the number of zeros, right? And then I run another for loop from I plus 1 till n and count the number of ones, right? And if I add these two, then it will give me the score, right? When I do the split at index I, split at I equals to 0, right? So same thing I can do for all the indices, right? So the indices will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So starting from I equals to 0, our first loop will run from 0 to I, that is 0 to 0, only one element, right? So it will count the number of zeros. Here it is 0, so the count will become 1, right? The count of zeros will become 1 and the count of ones is initially 0, right? Then for the right substring, for counting the number of ones, we will run a for loop starting from I plus 1 till n, right? So it will start from here and it will go till end and it will count the number of ones. So it is 4. So this will become 4 and then you can add these two and you can update your score, right? But the only thing is that this I will not go till 5. It will only go till 4, right? So basically this I loop will be running from 0 to less than n minus 1. Why? Because the last split that we can have is at this particular point, right? So we will move our I only till here, right? So let's try to look at the code for this approach. So first of all, let's create a score variable for storing our answer. Then we will run a for loop of I starting from 0 till s dot size minus 1, right? Because if we will go till the end, then our right substring will become empty, right? Then since we need to count the number of zeros and ones and then they are going to be added together, right? So we can take a common variable, let's suppose current, and inside this we will count, right? So first we will run a for loop of j for counting the number of zeros in the left substring. So it will start from 0 and it will go till I, right? And then we'll do plus plus. Inside this we will check that if the jth index is in string s is equals to a 0, then increment current by 1, right? Then we will run a for loop of j again for counting the number of ones in the right substring. So it will start from I plus 1 and it will go till j less than s dot size, and we'll do j plus plus. Inside this we will check that if the jth index in s is equals to 1, then we will increment our current by 1. So once these two for loops are completed, in the current variable, we will be having the number of zeros in the left substring and the number of ones in the right substring. So here what we can do is that in the score, we can update it to the maximum of score comma current, right? And at the end here, we can simply return this score. We will run this. So now if you see Ri is starting from 0, this for loop is running for all the elements in string S. And then inside this is running for I elements and this is running for the remaining elements. So basically each time it is running overall n times, right? So we can say that the time complexity for this approach is n square, right? And space complexity, we have not taken any extra space, so it is constant, right? But can we optimize it further? Let's try to make it linear. So if you see over here, I want to count my number of zeros and ones, right? So what am I saying is that if initially in the number of ones, I store that how many number of ones do I have in my string in total. So see, in the entire string, the total number of ones are 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So I will count it. The total number of ones are 4, right? Now what I can do is that I can try to split at each point, right? So earlier what we were doing is that whenever we were splitting, right, we were counting the number of zeros and then we were counting the number of ones, right? For that we had to run another loop, right? But since we are iterating from the index 0 towards the right and we are trying to split at each point, we can count the number of zeros, right, as we are moving forward. So there won't be any need for running a loop for counting the number of zeros, right? Then the other loop that was running was for the number of ones, right? So if I know that in my entire string, whatever are the number of ones that I know initially, if I'm trying to split at this particular point, then I know that how many ones are present in the left substring, because when I am moving in the forward direction, I am accessing each of the index, right? So I know that in the left substring, how many ones are present, right? So what I can do is that from this total count, whenever I encounter a 1 in my left substring, I can decrement it by 1, right? When I will do so, in my 1, I will have the total number of ones present in the right substring, right? So basically, if you see, initially the total number of ones present are 4, right? And we have kept the number of zeros as 0, and we can take our final score as 0 initially, right? Again, simply we will try to split at each point. So we will run a for loop of I starting from 0 and it will go till 4 only, right? And then we can check that. So I equals to 0 is denoting that we are doing a split over here. So we will check that what is this element. So this is a 0, right? So we will increment our number of zeros by 1. So if we do a split at this particular point, the number of zeros are 1 and the number of ones are 4. So we can just add these two. 1 plus 4 will be 5. 5 is greater than 0. Score will be updated to 5. Then we move to the index 1. Now we are doing a split here. At index 1, we came across a 1. Then that means 1, 1. One occurrence of 1 has moved to the left substring, right? So the remaining number of ones in the right substring will be 3. 4 minus 1, that is 3, right? So if we split at this particular point, then zeros are 1 in the left substring and the number of ones in the right substring are 3. So we'll do 1 plus 3, which is 4, which is lesser than the score. Then we will move to index 2. At index 2, again, we have a 1. So we will decrement the number of ones by 2, right? So in this particular string, in the left substring, the number of zeros are 1 and in the right substring, the number of ones are 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, which is smaller than the score. Then I will be equals to 3. At 3 again we have a 1. So our number of ones will become 1, right? So if you see in the left substring we have 1 0 and in the right substring we have 1 1. So 1 plus 1, that is 2, which is lesser than the score. Then our I will become 4. At 4 we have a 0. So the number of zeros will be incremented by 1, right? Now at this particular point in the left substring we have 2 zeros, in the right substring we have 1 1. So 1 plus 2, that is equals to 3, which is lesser than the score. And now we will stop here, and this is our maximum score. So now here we are iterating only once in our string, right, for updating this. Right, inside that we won't be running another for loop in this particular string, although we will do it in two passes. First we will have to count the total number of ones present in the string, and then we will run another for loop for this I for finding out our score. So it will be two passes, but it will be order of n plus n, that is order of 2n, which is order of n, right? So let's try to code this out. So first of all, let's count the total number of ones. So we can use an inbuilt function count, and in this we will give s dot begin comma s dot end comma 1, right? So it will return me the total occurrences of 1 present in the string s, right? And then for the score I can keep it as 0 initially, and the number of zeros also we will keep as 0 initially. Then we will run a for loop of I starting from 0, and it will go till s dot size minus 1, and then we'll do I plus plus, and then inside this we will check that if the current index is a 1, then we have to decrement our ones by 1. Else what we will do, we will increment our number of zeros by 1, right? And then in our score we can update it to the maximum of score comma zeros plus ones, right? And then at the end we can return this score. So let's run this. So as you see over here, we did two passes. So this will also take order of n time, and this is also running n time. So it is 2n, right? Now there is another approach where we can solve this problem with just one pass. Instead of 2n, we can do it in order of n. So let's look at that approach as well. So here we had initially counted that how many number of ones are present in the string, right? So keeping that thing in mind, what we can do is, so see, what is our score? Our score is the number of zeros in the left substring plus the number of ones in the right substring, right? And this score has to be maximized, right? This has to be maximized, right? So this is my score. So this is the number of ones in the right substring. Can I write this particular thing as the total number of ones in the entire string minus the total number of ones in the left substring? So if I am doing a split over here, then my score is the number of zeros in the left substring, which is 1, and the number of ones in the right substring, which is 1, 2, 3. I am saying that this number of ones in the right substring, I can write it as total number of ones in the entire string minus the number of ones in the left substring. So in the entire string, the total number of ones are 4. And in the left substring, the total number of 1 is 1. So 1 here. So 4 minus 1 will be 3. So in my right substring, I am having 3 ones, right? So this can be written as this, right? So our new score becomes, the equation for our score becomes the number of zeros in the left substring plus total number of ones in the entire string minus the number of ones in the left substring, right? Now we know that this is a constant, right? The total number of ones in the entire substring will always remain the same, right? This is a constant. So here the number of ones are 4. So the total number of ones in the string will always remain as 4, right? The only thing left here for us to calculate is the number of zeros in the left substring minus the number of ones in the left substring. So let me denote it with x, number of zeros in the left substring minus number of ones in the left substring. If we try to maximize this, right, if we find out the maximum value for x, right, then at the end, what we can do is that in this value, we can add the total number of ones in our entire substring, and that is going to be our score, right? Our score will be maximum value of x plus the total number of ones that we have in the entire string. So with this, we will be able to identify our answer, right? So what we will do is that again, we will keep a pointer I starting from 0, right? And we will be taking the number of ones and the number of zeros, right? So the number of ones will be 0 initially and the number of zeros will also be 0 initially, and we will also take x. Now in this x we are doing subtraction, so it might be possible that in some cases this becomes negative. So here we will initialize it with int min, right? So now what we can do is when we are at I equals to 0, we are splitting at this point. So this particular value, this is 0. So we will increment our number of zeros by 1. So basically this is denoting how many number of zeros do we have in the left substring, and this is denoting how many number of ones do we have in the left substring, right? So then right now at I equals to 0, if we are splitting here, then in the left substring, number of ones are 0 and number of zeros are 1, right? So the value of x will be 1 minus 0, which is 1, which is greater than int min. So x will be updated to 1, right? Then we will move to I equals to 1. At this point, we have a 1 over here. So we will increment our number of ones by 1, right? So now it will be 1 minus 1, which is 0, and x is already greater than 0, so it won't get updated. Then we'll move to index 2. Index 2 is a 1, so this will become 2 now. Equation will be 1 minus 2, that is minus 1, which is smaller than 1, so x will remain as is. I will become 3. At index 3, we have a 1, so the number of ones will become 3 now. This equation will be 1 minus 3, that is minus 2, which is less than x. So now we'll move to I equals to 4. At 4, we have a 0, so the number of zeros will become 2. So this equation will be 2 minus 3, which is minus 1, which is less than 1, so x will remain as is, right? And now since we are at I equals to 4, we will stop, right? So now we have got the maximum value of this x, which is 1, right? But we still don't have the total number of ones present in the entire string. For finding out the score, we need this as well, right? But if we again go inside the string and count, it will again be 2 passes. We have to do it in 1 pass, right? So if you closely look over here, we moved till the second last index, which is 4, right? So each point we were updating this variable once, right? So till this index 4, whatever are the number of ones present in my string, that count I have in this variable 3, right? So what I can simply do is that after I am done with all this, I can check that what is the character present at the last index. So here at the last index 1 is present. So if a 1 is present, I will increment my number of ones by 1, right? So it will become 4. If this is a 0, then I won't increment, right? So now in this ones variable, I have the total number of ones present in the entire string. And now in this x, that is 1, I can simply add this. So my score will be 1 plus 4, that is 5. And this is going to be my answer as we saw earlier, right? So we did only one pass over here and we found out our answer. So let's quickly look at the code. So we'll take our variables ones for counting the number of ones and zeros for counting the number of zeros, both in the left substring. Then we'll take x, which will be initialized to int min. Then we'll run a for loop of I starting from 0, going to s dot size minus 1, and then we'll do I plus plus. Inside this, we will check that if the current index or the current character is a 1, then we will increment our number of ones by 1. Otherwise, we will increment the number of zeros by 1, right? Then we will update x to the maximum of x comma the number of zeros minus the number of 1, and then outside of this we will check what is present at the last index. So if at s dot size minus 1 we have a 1, then we will increment our number of ones by 1, and then we can simply return x plus the number of ones, right? So let's run this. So now here we are doing only one pass. So our time complexity will be order of n, and we have not taken any extra space. So the space complexity is constant. Let's submit this. So it got accepted. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe our channel.